Let's get reaction from Mr. Lesiba Thobakgale, who is, of course, spokesperson for the South African Policing Union. Lesiba, good evening to you. I mean, you've seen the video. Your initial thoughts?
Thank you, Naledi, for having us, and greetings to your viewers. We are actually shocked to see such a reaction when the police are executing their constitutional mandate. I mean, when we look at the crisis of crime in areas like Westbury, one would expect that everyone there would welcome the action that is being taken by the police, even when it comes to the visibility, when it comes to the stop and searches that the police are doing there. We would expect that it would be appreciated and it would be commended. But instead, we have seen some criminal elements. We would refer them as criminal elements because if the police are doing their job, and somebody comes and obstruct them in doing their job, it clearly means that person is committing a crime, and they should be clearly labeled as such because it is not even the majority of the community members in Westbury, but it is just few criminal elements that really started to be throwing objects at the police whilst they are removing and arresting someone who was found in possession of drugs. So we condemn such an action, and we are saying that anyone attacking the police, they are attacking the state, because attack on the police, it is attack on the state, and it should be treated as such. And those types of criminal activities or acts, they should clearly be dealt with, and we are hoping that the police would investigate into this matter and really look into those who are responsible for such, because we cannot allow any form of lawlessness in our country, because the residents of Westbury, those who are law-abiding citizens, they've got a right for them to receive services from the police. They've got a right for the police to be there to really make sure that things are in order. But those who don't want to see order acting in the manner that they have, it is our belief as a trade union to say that they need to be dealt with, because that is it is a problematic area. I mean, there's a lot of things that came out of Westbury. But in a nutshell, from our side, we condemn such an action, but we also commend the police in how they handled that issue, because it would have escalated. You know, if you're a police officer, you attend a domestic violence. We're just giving an example where you are just told about serving a protection order. And when you get there, that very same situation, it may come out and just escalate within a split of a second. And how you respond to it, it will really determine the outcome thereof. So we are quite comfortable with how the members, have retreated in that manner, making sure that they are safe and not being confrontational, not being confrontational to those criminal elements who were throwing objects at them.
I mean, you raised the point around commending how the anti-gang unit and those officers reacted in that moment. Athlenda Mate, using the words, we think they acted professionally and acted within the ambit of the law to ensure that no loss of life takes place. But could that anti-gang unit successfully re-enter Westbury and rid the community of gang activity and the movement of drugs in Westbury when the community has seen this image that we're playing on the screen right now?
Naledi, it is not about the image that is being seen playing on the screen. I think everyone has to look at the bigger picture. Remember, the police in South Africa, they have a right to go anywhere in the country. There are no places that are said to say you cannot come and enter. Like they've been deployed in Westbury as an anti-gang unit. I mean, they are clearly there to deal with issues that relates to criminal activities that has to do with gangs and anything that is criminal in nature. And them having retreated out of that situation, it does not mean that tomorrow or even today they will not be able to do their duties there, because that is the responsibility that they have. The main thing it's about to say, how do you deal with the situation at that time? To say, if you become confrontational, what would happen? You are carrying live rounds. We don't want to see any other situation like what we have seen in Marikana happening over the years, many years back. So them having retreated doesn't mean that it has to do anything with their credibility. It doesn't have anything to do with them, being able to work in Westbury. They still work in Westbury. They will continue to work in Westbury, and they will still continue to make sure that what they are deployed there for, it will still be fulfilled. So from our perspective, we think that we should not, really say, it really had something to do with the credibility of the police. They would still be able to do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, because you've also got to consider just some of the common denominators when we look at communities that are dealing with gang-related crimes and violence, right? So you do have just 2 days ago the issue of flare-ups in some of Cape Town's gang-infested areas, where Albert Fritz, who's the MEC for Community Safety, is saying that these shootings are getting out of hand and that more resources are necessary for police, right? And the issue of resources continuing to be a big one in areas like Manenberg that have a massive gang problem. So what does that look like in a community like Westbury? So what is it that our police then need, or do we need more reinforcement and not just resources?
Now, in this regard, I mean, they were just doing the stop and search. They were doing their normal patrols when they came across the suspect whom they found to be in possession of drugs. And then the situation escalated in that manner. And also taking into consideration to say any area that has gangs operating there. I mean, Westbury is known to say there are thefts there where different types of gangs are fighting for the different thefts, to say they belong to them and this and that and so on. So reinforcement is always important, more especially even when it comes to the issue of resources as well. And sometimes you would go and be doing patrols, Naledi, and just doing normal patrols and then just checking what is really happening. And a situation like this happens, that is when reinforcement is clearly needed, if it is warranted at that time, to say how then do you deal with the situation if it escalates any way further, and then there is a need for reinforcement to come. But the issue of resources, yes, it's a reality that is faced by the South African police services, more especially when we are looking at the issue of gangs that have infested most of our communities, not only in the Western Cape, but we are seeing it in Gauteng, and we've seen some in other different parts of the country as well.
Let's talk about the breakdown of that relationship between police and communities and what we need to do about that. You've got the CPF, for instance, that is supposed to be a go-between for police and communities. Is that working in a community like Westbury? So when you look at the situation there, what do you do about that breakdown?
No, it is quite important, because remember, it was not the whole community. It was not even the majority of the community of Westbury in this regard. That relationship, it remains to be important to us. It remains to be important to the police and also the very same community of Westbury in this regard. That is why we are making this important call to say the leaders, not only CPF, but the leaders that are there, church leaders, any form of organizations that are there, that are holding hands with the police to really fight against crime. We need to have that there is a need to really have that social dialogue to say, after what has happened, how then do we move forward? Because there is no way that the police would neglect Westbury because of the incident that has occurred. And there is no way that even the community themselves, they would say that they do not want the police in Westbury. So the issue of social dialogue remains to be important. And all those structures we mentioned, like your community policing forum, it is the one that plays a critical role in instances like this, to say that they should bring the community and bring the police together to say that after what has happened, how do we move forward? Because that relationship, it remains to be important. And policing cannot happen in all of our communities, not only in Westbury, if there is no relationship between different organizations, inclusive of Community Policing Forum and the police. We need one another to fight against crime, because our enemy, Naledi, is crime. It's not It is not communities, it is not the police, but the only enemy we have that is standing between the community and the police is crime, and we should keep our focus right there and not be deterred by anything else.
You know, I appreciate all of your contributions, Lesiba. Thank you so much. I can't let you go without looking at this issue, and now, of course, we'll change track a little bit. We've been, as a country, mourning and in shock over the death of 14-year-old Likona Fose. We have been in shock over the death of Olorato Mongane. We're now reporting on the murder of 20-year-old Buhle Makanda, whose body was found near a graveyard on Sunday. She was raped, shot dead, and left naked. I mean, it is just the most horrific sort of reality where we go back to gender-based violence in our country. Just as a union, do you have confidence in our police's ability to really crack down on what is a wave that is terrifying women in the country?
Gender-based violence and femicide has been declared by the president after COVID-19 years back, and that status quo still remains, that we have a problem of crime in this country, including crimes that are related to gender-based violence, inclusive of femicide as well. And it is our view that we need to deal with a high level of criminality that is there in our country. We need to deal with all challenges that the police are faced with, or the law enforcement fraternity at large are faced with in fighting crime. And we do have confidence in all of our law enforcement, in the efforts that they are making in fighting on these crimes. I mean, in the incident of Olorato, we have seen in terms of the breakthrough that was made by the police in KwaZulu-Natal when that suspect, escaped moved from Gauteng and displaced in KwaZulu-Natal, where he was tracked and so on. So we are seeing efforts that are made. And yes, we want to confirm that we do have confidence in the police that they are capable, but we need to hold hands together. We go to the very same point to say most of these incidents, they do happen where we are not able to see. We need to make sure that we make it our business. If there's anything that is happening that is criminal related, as the members of society, let's not say I'm not affected. Let's say it's not someone that I know who is affected. Let us make the issue of crime to be our business so that we can be able to jointly work hand in glove with the police so they can be able to even prevent some of these challenges we are having in relation to that. But confidence in the police, we do have that they will be able to really fight on these issues, as we have seen some of the crackdowns that they have done.
Yeah. Lesiba, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. Mr. Lesiba Thobakgale, who is the spokesperson for the South African Policing Union.